In several villages and countries, the phenomenon of missing men is creating a noticeable gender imbalance, especially among the elderly. The reasons? Migration, war, natural disasters, and differences in life expectancy. Nepal, the women who keep the flame while waiting for loved ones afar. In the peaceful setting of Nepal's mountain villages, where the wind gently sweeps through terraced fields and prayer flags flutter under clear blue skies, a quiet reality unfolds. Women living in a state of temporary widowhood, as their husbands, fathers, and sons have left home to seek livelihoods abroad. Since 2006, the labor migration wave has become an inseparable part of Nepali life. Over 2.6 million citizens, mostly working-age men, have gone abroad, especially to Gulf countries, Malaysia, or India, in search of a better life for their families. But the cost is high. In villages like Brahma, the sight of men has become rare. Left behind are women, the elderly, and children, accompanied only by time and longing. Yet amid this absence, Nepali women have emerged as quiet but resilient pillars. They not only farm the land and tend livestock, but also uphold traditions, maintain spiritual life, and raise grandchildren while their children work far from home. Though not outspoken, these mothers and grandmothers are the lifeblood sustaining the community. Notably, beyond the years of solitude, they face many social challenges: lack of support resources, physical and mental burdens, and sometimes the uncertainty that comes with potential crises befalling loved ones abroad. Each home here feels like a quiet weight, yet also a symbol of endurance and sacrifice. Nepal is known not only as the land of Mount Everest or the birthplace of Buddha, but also as a place where women quietly write vivid chapters of love, strength, and an unbreakable bond between people and their land. Bangladesh, the silent widows, amid the storm of fate. Bangladesh, a country nestled along the Bay of Bengal, has long been familiar with unnamed battles against cyclones, against poverty, and against the invisible grief of those left behind. For millions of women here, the pain of losing a husband does not always come from death, but from the indefinite separation caused by labor migration and harsh workplace accidents. In 2024, over 1,000 Bangladeshi men lost their lives while working, mainly at construction sites abroad and domestically. That figure is just the tip of the iceberg, reflecting the fragility of livelihoods pursued under unsafe conditions and with little protection. Moreover, nature itself is a quiet of a thief. Storms, floods, and rising sea levels not only destroy homes, but also claim the lives of family breadwinners. Women, especially older women in rural areas, become the ones who keep the homes, the fields, and the memories of those who are gone. 73% of elderly women in Bangladesh live in rural areas, many of them without a husband by their side, whether deceased, away working, or never returning. They not only face loneliness, but also shoulder all the heavy responsibilities of their households and communities, from farming and caring for grandchildren to weathering natural disasters. These women often have no voice in society, but they are living witnesses to an unjust system where men leave with dreams of a better life and women stay behind to bear all the consequences. They cannot remarry due to cultural norms and receive little to no support from the government or their communities. Yet even so, they continue to live, to work, and to hope. Bangladesh is not only a land of rivers and storms, but also a place where women, even in silence, resist adversity with extraordinary strength. Armenia, women who preserve a nation's soul after historical storms. Tucked away in the mighty Caucasus Mountains, Armenia is not only the cradle of an ancient civilization, but also a land marked by deep historical scars, from the 1915 genocide to prolonged wars and post-Soviet economic struggles. Through all these upheavals, Armenian women have not only witnessed history, but preserved the soul of an entire people. The legacy of massacres, border wars with Azerbaijan, and enduring poverty has led to a severe gender imbalance among the elderly. Men, who were the primary soldiers and workers, account for most of the casualties, leaving behind a generation of women who live in solitude, yet refusing to give in. Today, in the small villages of Armenia, you'll often see elderly women weaving at their looms, tending fairs or preparing traditional dishes like dolma or lavash. These women are keepers of collective memory, not only through stories, but also through customs, music, dances, and folk festivals. They still celebrate Easter with ancient rituals, still bake gada on village holidays, and still teach their grandchildren Armenian myths the same way their grandparents did. On the memorial days of the 1915 genocide, these elderly women are the first to light candles, not just in remembrance, but to pass on a legacy never to be forgotten. Though they bear no arms, they are warriors of heritage, preserving identity through the tides of change. They not only survived the wars, but continue to resist cultural erosion with all their heart and life. Armenia, through generations of women, has not only endured, but shown the strength of a nation that once stood at the brink of despair, yet never lost faith in the future. Haiti. When women stand amid the ruins to hold their communities together. Haiti, a Caribbean island once radiant with compa music and festival colors, now lies beneath a thick layer of crisis dust. Not one single disaster, but a chain of catastrophes. Earthquakes, floods, pandemics, political turmoil, and armed violence. In this chaos, men often leave, seeking safer places or getting swept up in violence. Left behind are the women, especially the elderly, who remain steadfast amid the wreckage. In just 1 month, more than 60,000 Haitians were forced to leave their homes, creating a massive of internal displacement. Most of those who stayed are women, too weak to leave, with no place to go, or they chose to stay, to hold on to what little remains of their families and communities. As a result, older women have become the reluctant pillars of devastated neighborhoods. They care for children whose parents have left to earn a living or disappeared amid violence. They mediate small conflicts in refugee camps, manage food distribution, and act as bridges to humanitarian aid groups. In other words, they carry the weight of their communities on their bent shoulders. But it doesn't stop there. These women also preserve memory. They tell the younger generation about the Haiti that once was beautiful and peaceful. They still weave baskets, cook griot, and teach children old folk songs. Amid the ruins, they are the final flicker of national pride. Their loneliness is not only physical, but also the burden of suffering consequences from a chain of crises they did not cause. Yet they stay, they endure, like the last beams holding up a collapsing house, so that those around them still have shelter. Haiti may have lost many things, but through these elderly women, the country still holds its most precious flame, the unyielding fire of resilience. Georgia. When men leave, women stay to guard the homeland. Amid the snow-covered Caucasus Mountains and the vibrant wine valleys of Georgia, rural life retains its nostalgic beauty. But behind that lies a challenging reality. Men leave, and women silently carry families and communities on their shoulders. In Georgia, poverty is not just a statistic, it's a deeply rooted reality in every village. Nearly 40% of the population lives on less than $7 per day, forcing thousands of men to leave for work in Russia, Europe, or Central Asia, or to take on dangerous jobs in construction or mining. They leave with dreams of a brighter future, but for many, that journey has no return. Due to accidents, illness, or the sheer harshness of life abroad. Left behind are the women, mothers, wives, sisters, who become caregivers, breadwinners, and keepers of traditions, language, and village identity. They not only manage farms and raise children, but also organize local festivals, preserve the Kartuli folk dance, cook traditional dishes like khachapuri and kinkali, and maintain community bonds. Many villages in Georgia today have a unique rhythm, where women not only take on men's roles, but also reshape how communities live and thrive. They become leaders in key decisions and gain the trust of the younger generation amid waves of migration and constant change. Georgia is known not only for its wine or heartfelt hospitality, but also for the resilience of its women, who turn absence into an opportunity to affirm their roles and capabilities. In the silence of country roads where men no longer tread, the footsteps of women echo, steadfast, strong, and proud. Moldova, a land where women bear it all. Moldova, a small country nestled between Romania and Ukraine, is known for its endless vineyards and a culture that blends East and West. But behind the beauty of its countryside lies an often overlooked truth. Women here are quietly holding up society, as men steadily leave their homeland in search of better opportunities abroad. Statistics show that 64% of migrant workers from Moldova are men, a figure that reflects a massive migration wave, mostly to Russia, Italy, and wealthier European nations. This exodus leaves a heavy toll. In many rural areas, elderly women outnumber men of the same age 2 to 1, creating a stark imbalance in social and family structures. However, Moldovan women do not shy away from challenges. They run small farms, tend vineyards, harvest fruits, and take on heavy labor traditionally done by men. In addition, many open convenience stores, small restaurants, or join local charity work, becoming the backbone of the rural economy. In the villages, they not only raise grandchildren while their children work far away, but also organize traditional rituals, preserve the Moldovan language, teach the younger generation old melancholic folk songs, and cook dishes like mamaliga or placinta, not just to feed, but to keep memories of a homeland alive. They are mothers, grandmothers, breadwinners, spiritual caretakers, and the soul of the community. In every village decision, every harvest season, and every remittance sent from abroad, the presence of women is felt as a quiet symbol of endurance and resilience. Moldova may be Europe's fastest shrinking country, but the women who stay have transformed absence into inner strength, rebuilding from the roots so their villages don't become forgotten memories. Ethiopia, early marriage and its lasting consequences. Ethiopia, one of humanity's most ancient cradles, not only holds traces of long history, but also grapples with persistent social issues. Amid lush highlands and poor rural villages, the lives of Ethiopian women often begin in marriage as children and end in prolonged solitude before old age ever arrives. Statistics show that 14% of women in Ethiopia were married before the age of 15, a number that clearly reflects the grave consequences of early marriage. Girls barely old enough to grow up become wives, then mothers, and must bear the weight of adulthood while still emotionally and physically immature. A shortage of middle-aged men due to migration, war, and poor health, especially in rural areas, means many older women become widows at a young age. They rarely remarry, not just due to cultural pressure, but also stigma, lack of social support, and overwhelming family burdens. In traditional communities, when a man dies, a woman often loses not only her husband, but her social standing. She becomes marginalized, must care for her children alone, work to feed the family, and at the same time uphold traditional values. She is the keeper of rituals, the storyteller, the one who helps the community maintain customs. Yet she herself lacks support and a voice. Even so, as in many parts of the world, Ethiopian women quietly shine. They work on dry fields, haul water from distant wells, teach children to read, and tell ancient tales under clay rooftops. Though their lives are filled with injustice, they are still spiritual anchors, witnesses of outdated traditions and bearers of hope for change. Ethiopia is evolving, but without addressing root problems like child marriage, gender inequality, and the lack of social safety nets, countless lonely women will continue to live in remote villages, those who spent their youth as wives and their old age in emptiness. DRC, Congo. When women become pillars after war. In Central Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is known not only for its vast mineral resources, but also for being home to one of the world's most prolonged and silent humanitarian crises. War, armed violence, disease, and poverty have shattered the social fabric, leaving behind millions of women who have become the sole guardians of life and culture in a nation once pushed to the brink. In just 5 years, over 3 million Congolese people died, mostly from armed conflict, malaria, Ebola, and a collapsed healthcare system. At the same time, about 30 million malaria cases were recorded, making it a silent killer as devastating as bullets. In this reality, men, either fallen on the battlefield or forced into armed groups, leave a void that women must silently and bravely fill. In villages and refugee camps, it is the women who till the land, naman, rebuild homes, raise orphans, and hold the community together. Not just mothers to their own, many Congolese women have become mothers to entire generations, raising children not their own, running makeshift schools in huts, or teaching songs to distract from the gunfire of the night before. They preserve festivals, food, and traditional dances as a way to say, "We are still alive, and we are still Congolese." The extraordinary thing is that despite endless loss and trauma, both physical and emotional, they do not collapse. Congolese women are not just victims, they are silent heroes, the embodiment of resilience and the spirit of communities reborn from ruin. The world may seldom mention them, but it is these women who are rebuilding Congo's future brick by brick, with calloused hands and unbreakable hearts. Afghanistan. When war and prejudice strangle hope. Afghanistan, a land once radiant with libraries, instruments, and silk along the legendary Silk Road, is now where women's dreams are buried beneath war, harsh laws, and age-old prejudice. Even as guns fall silent, another war rages on, the quiet struggle of women fighting against being erased. Over 4 decades of conflict have torn apart the population, forcing millions, mostly men, to flee abroad or perish. The result is a severely imbalanced society, especially in rural areas, where older women live in isolation. No husbands, no sons, and no voice in the community. With the return of Taliban rule, all that women had achieved after 2001 was swiftly undone. They are banned from education, from working in most fields, and face heavy restrictions on movement and speech. Elderly women, once teachers, doctors, artists, or simply mothers of generations, are now confined within their homes, imprisoned not just by walls, but by rules. Many live in poverty, loneliness, and without care. But the deeper pain is watching their granddaughters repeat the same cycle. No education, no voice, and no dreams. In a society where women's voices don't exist, they are not just forgotten. They are witnesses to hope being extinguished daily. Yet in the shadows, many Afghan women still preserve cultural memory. They teach poetry by Hafiz, embroider ancient flower patterns, and pass down folk tales in whispers. They have no stage, no classroom, yet remain the keepers of identity, even when no one asks them to speak. Afghanistan, with all its former glory and current sorrow, still holds glimmers of hope through its silent yet unyielding women. And when the world looks this way, they are living proof of a spirit that is not defeated, just forgotten. Burundi, the world's poorest country and its single women. Tucked away in the heart of Africa, Burundi is a land of scenic peace, where every inch carries the weight of painful statistics. With a GDP per capita of just $193 a year, it is not only the world's poorest country financially, but also poor in opportunity, infrastructure, and women's dreams. Around 70% of the population lives below the poverty line, while child malnutrition is at crisis levels, with hundreds of thousands of children lacking enough nutritious meals each day. In such conditions, marriage is no longer the start of a better life. It becomes a burden no one can bear. Many women in Burundi, especially in rural areas, have chosen, or been forced, to live without husbands or families of their own. Not because they don't want love, but because poverty has suffocated even the chance to build a home. No land to farm, no house to live in, no money for even a modest wedding. Things normal elsewhere become luxuries here. In Burundian society, single women face not only material deprivation, but also social pressure and quiet stigma. Even so, they persist, farming their own fields, caring for aging parents, raising children alone, and even joining small community initiatives like gardening groups or artisan cooperatives to share resources and survival skills. They have no wedding dresses, no honeymoons, but they have an extraordinary will to live. Quiet, like Burundi itself, where life is always fragile, yet its people never give up. Burundi today is a painful reminder. When a nation is left behind, women are the first to suffer and the last to hold on to hope. From Nepal to Burundi, each story is a raw slice of life, showcasing the quiet resilience of women who hold their communities together amid adversity. If these lives have moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to help spread empathy and awareness.